On a small 350-acre farm called Woodvale near Yass on the southern tablelands of New South Wales, Australia, wool grower John Powell, during the past 24 years, has developed a very holistic and peaceful relationship with his sheep. Today, John Powell rotates a flock of almost 700 wethers between paddocks as part of a modern rotational grazing program. John, who is also an agricultural research consultant, is known locally as the Sheep Whisperer. His much-loved sheepdog, Angie, died from snake bites several years ago, and today he works the flock alone. One man, 700 sheep.
It started in about 2005, I suppose, Mike. The drought really hit us in 2001, but by 2005 we'd spent a fortune on buying in feed for pregnant ewes and buying in more feed for their lambs and so on. So we'd spent an awful lot of money through those 4 years of the drought. And then I decided to destock almost completely. We were just bleeding cash. So I destocked, sold all the ewes, and we were left with 3 pet wethers that my daughter had raised when she was still at school. They were about 7 or 8 years old then, and a few other two-tooth sheep that we'd had. And also at about that time, a brown snake killed my beloved Border Collie bitch, Angie. And so by 2006, the weather had got even worse. We had a dry and dusty landscape, no dog, and hardly any sheep left. And it was just a terrible time, not only for us, but many farmers in southern Australia. So anyway, all through 2007 we had hardly any sheep, about 50 sheep I think, down from 1,100 initially before the drought. And in 2007 we got really good rain in December 2007, storm rains actually. And because I'd almost completely destocked, the paddocks weren't really damaged with that rain. And the native grasses actually set seed with that rain and through that following summer. So in about the following autumn then, autumn 2008, we started restocking. And I thought, oh no, I'm not going to take the risk anymore of buying in ewes, and then with the climate change predictions saying that things were going to get hotter and drier anyway, and that drought was just a harbinger of things to come. So I thought, oh, that is too risky, I'll just lose more money. So I thought, with a weather operation, I don't have to buy in any feed because they're more resilient to changing conditions. Don't have to buy rams, and I don't have to fertilise as much. And those are the 3 biggest costs of the operation when we were breeding. So I could see that it was more resilient potentially, and potentially more profitable, say over a 10-year period with highs and lows of pasture growth and climate variability and so on. So we started to restock with young wethers. And I thought I'd put them in the paddock with the 3 pet wethers, who were about 8 or 9 years old by then, and hopefully that would just settle the young wethers down and get them used to the place. And essentially that did, but when I'd go into the paddock then to move them, the 3 potty wethers had come to me because I used to come to my daughter when she used to feed them with willow leaves when they were lambs, and they used to come to me as well then. And the new sheep then followed them, which was the herding instinct in practice. So I thought, oh, well, that's pretty good. Oh, maybe I don't need a dog. And that worked. For the first few paddock moves, that worked. So I thought, well, then as I brought in more and more sheep, we're up to 700 now, and as I brought in new mobs of sheep, I did the same sort of thing. And now we've got to the stage where, yeah, 700 sheep, I've got a mob of 620 grown wethers, that is like 3-4 year old wethers. And the new mob is still with that, well, there's 1 potty wether left now, he's about 15 years old and on his last legs, but the new mob of hogget wethers are still in with him, being assimilated onto the property. And that's how it works. And I think really, yeah, next year we'll have a big mob of 700 wethers, and I think it's scalable. I could easily see us, if the conditions allowed, running say 1 mob of 1,000 wethers here without a dog. And certainly I use the motorbike in the rougher country out the back, but I think it's scalable. I think there's two key things that help with that system. It's 450 acres subdivided into 34 paddocks for the rotational grazing system, which is good for land care. And I'm used to where the sheep like to run. I'm used to the place and where they are likely to camp in the daytime. Plus I think I'm still reasonably fit and can walk over these hills and rocks and logs and things if I have to, without injuring myself. So the system's working. It's good from a land care perspective, moving the sheep around in a rotational grazing system. And I think it's good from a sheep welfare perspective because they're quiet, they're not stressed at any move. And I think an unstressed sheep is a more productive sheep.